Time is now 1:42. We are back in session. We're going to conclude the day with general discussion. We're going to start, ask Mr. Kitzrow to walk us through some of the council discussion points and items that we have notated so far through our budget level discussions, and we'll be making, try to at least get closer to finalizing and our council level adjustments. So
absolutely, and our finance team will be kind of walking us through on the bigger screen if they need to zoom in. I think I've also sent everybody a copy of this so you can follow along on your own devices. So let's start at the very beginning. At the very top of the line on FY26 finance level, what you're looking at is the mayor's proposed submitted budget, the revenues, the expenditures, and then in our budget what the mayor use of surplus was, which is a use of $1.594231 million. We based that off of a targeted use of surplus of $1.6 million. So we came in about $6,000 under what our targeted use was. So we felt comfortable with that number, and we have since sent that to you all. Yesterday and today, we have built a list of additional expenditures and potential revenue line items that can be taken into consideration. I've already populated a couple council adjustments. That's column H. And then column I is over under the target use. Then the target use again is still $1.6 million. Traditionally, the targeted use has been anywhere from $1.3 million up to $1.7 million on a recurring basis.
you've trained it on. You've trained it on
1.6 is what we have it on as of right now. Yes. The only additional revenue item that we have discussed that I added on, we didn't really actually get into a conversation. I'll explain it when we get into the expenditure side of it, is trash fees. I wanted to just add that as a placeholder. For every additional dollar that we increase our trash fees, it's $19,600. Right now, that's proposed in the fee schedule is a change from $73 to $77. I have put it as a placeholder as a possibility moving from $77 to $80, which I'll jump into right now. I did a further analysis of our tipping fees, and that's what another tab that you have in front of you. I think we're still going to be short with what we budgeted in the account by about $58,600. When I ran our numbers based off our current usage, it is a little bit short, and you can see the tab that you have right there of what that number would be. So I've went ahead and populated expenditures. That is something that I think is a real cost that we're going to have to adjust our budget for, unless we have less tonnage, which we can't guarantee. But we know what the cost is going to be. Please note that cost is at its current rate of $78 per ton. It does not include any proposed increases that the county is proposing right now. So if you flip onto that second tab, Sandy, if you want to zoom in a little bit on that file. You keep. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Can you?
I think they said on the back that it shows up on the.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Correct.
There it shows up correctly, but not.
Okay. That's fine. Everyone's following along in front. As I mentioned when we were talking about tipping fees yesterday, if you're following along on that tipping fees tab, I'm going to walk you through that page. Is everyone following along, council? If you look at the FY25, you can see that it was $67 per ton. At first, there's our actual tonnage, January through June, $78. I've done some projections for March, April, May, and June. That would come up to $764,000. So we were already going to be underfunded this past year. So our goal was to at least get back up to what we would consider as a 78 cost per ton, same tonnage as last year for FY26. We had originally budgeted $766,000. I think it's going to be closer to $825,000 if my math is correct. So I think we have shorted our initial projections by $58,000 in that account. So that's why I went ahead and adjusted it today, and it's sitting in our summary page. Now,
But that goes off of if the $78, not the 80.
Correct.
So, and the thought is that in the January market would go up to 80, and this is from July to June.
yeah, so let me back up a little bit. You're just jumping ahead a little bit. So it is right now. It is $78 a ton. If the county did no changes, did not adopt any fee schedule changes, we still need I am projecting our cost to be $825,000. In our mayor's proposed budget, it was a clerical error. We had not only budgeted $766,000. So I think we are still $58 short, $58,000 short in that account already, even with what we've already submitted to you. So if there's no changes, there's an additional adjustment that needs to be made of $58,000 to the expenditure line item. Period. If you scroll down further, if the county fee increases didn't hit the same tonnage, that's where you see in the bottom of that Excel sheet, the $88 and the $100, they all in would be about $994,000. We had seen $1 million. That's what Jake was talking about. He included an increase in trash usage, and a 5% increase in trash usage. If the county fee increases did go into effect, we are currently budgeted at $766,000. The actual cost would be $994,000. We would be under $227,000 from what is currently budgeted right now. For an equivalency stake, a tipping fee increase on top of where we're at right now at $77 as proposed, an additional $11 on top of that to get from 77 to 88 would net us an additional $215,000, essentially almost a wash with that additional increase. So something for consideration, that if the county did increase their fees as proposed, we would be short $227,000 in our current budget. If we were going to pass that on to the user, we would be looking at more of an $88 per quarter, not $77, unless you wanted to absorb it in a different part of the budget. So in total, that would go from $73 per quarter, which people are paying right now, to $88. So in summary, it's a lot. Right now it's $73. The mayor's budget is proposing $77. So if no action was taken and you adopted the fee schedule as proposed, we would collect the revenue that we have right now, and we would just need to budget an additional $58,000 in our tipping fee line item as a modification. If there are additional increases, you're looking at a shortfall of $227. And then you have to decide if you want to try to absorb that, use surplus, or pass that on.
We're hopeful that the council will come back with a little more of a graceful assent, since they haven't. I'm hopeful.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I believe in the Easter Bunny too.
Okay.
But no, I think that no, I mean, I think it's a fairly dramatic increase over a very short amount of time. Not the least of which are the private vendors out there that are already in contract. So again, they haven't even really built out their first seller. So they're not exactly. I don't know where they are in their bond set, but anyway, that's what we're hopeful.
Yeah, this isn't just unique to us; it'd be everybody. So I think there will be a lot of resistance to an aggressive fee schedule increase, but I just want to show everybody what we're talking about. I have not, nor am I advocating for an additional $11 increase to the thing. So going back to the original homepage, on the essential items, I just mentioned the $58,000 additional tipping fee financial adjustment that's required. On line 19, the energy contract renewal, that's what I brought up earlier, the little bit of good news of the reduction of the $445,000. If you split it out of these accounts, about just under 50%, or just over 50% of that contract is in the general fund. So that equals $235,000 of reduction that you'll see in our electricity accounts. That adjustment will be made by the finance department, so that's realized. The rest of it, most of it's in water and sewer. We've got a little bit in parking fund, a little bit in the marina. Next, PAC 14 adjustments. I sent you guys a follow-up email. I'm gonna come back to this one in a second. I'll just do the whole rundown. But there's an opportunity to save an additional $25,000 if you chose to do that, but I'll come back to that. Wellness program, $2,500 additional increase. We talked about adding that in. I've not put that in because everything else is kind of a menu options. Excuse me?
What's really in March, because we're taking it from, or is that, or no?
That's an additional 25, yeah. And Sandy, if you're tracking, that PAC 14 adjustment should be a negative 25,000. I know we haven't really talked about it yet, and we should come back to it. I'm jumping ahead. Funding for committees, I've added in $500 as a placeholder for the 5 committees that we have that do not receive any additional funding. That's $2,500 as a placeholder. I know we'll come back to the next line item about a council suite and if there's any costs associated with that. Zen City and Rept.
A question. So go back to the funding for the committees. That was, I'm trying to remember which of the 7 the accounts that
BPAC got 2,000 and the Green Team got 2,000.
Right.
I just put placeholders at $500 for each. So we can go ahead.
I'm just hold on one
So
second.
the additional 5 are getting 500 each, correct?
That's the proposal.
Yeah.
Let's why don't we bring down, I mean, so that I know it's small, but so instead of bringing down Green Team and BPAC to either 1,000, because again, they're both are budgeted for 2,000 each, but they haven't gotten anywhere near. I mean, BPAC in 2024, but I think that's because of the plastic bag maybe or so. So if we bring both of those down to 1,000, that saves us 2,000 there. Then that eats up some of that cost.
So the net increase would be 500 if you did it that way.
Bingo.
So would you like us, we can clear up the accounting, so we can populate $500 in there as an added expense right now, and then we'll clean up the accounting if that's what you.
Does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good to
Okay.
me.
I know it's small potatoes, but
No,
I
but
just,
I agree.
instead of,
Yeah.
okay.
A lot of pennies.
You'll capture that, bringing people, okay, perfect.
Dropping the 2 to the 1 and then
Yep.
still give 5 to the others.
Yep,
Yep.
cool.
And what'll happen is you won't see it, it'll be a little messy because each of these committees is assigned to a different department, so then that department will, you'll see that allocation in that department.
Yep.
Just
Will you all communicate that to them, to each?
Yes.
committee? Cool. All right, thank you.
Sin City and Rept reduction, that is a half-year reduction, so that is going from that's the $23,750 is, it sounded like council wanted to go ahead and do that. Is that a,
Yeah, and then see, I think it's, I think we talked about honoring the contract now, because I think it's going to give us a test to see how they actually work for us and see, and then at the time, we could say, yes, we want to adjust the budget, or no, this isn't really worth it.
Yeah. I just a sidebar on that. One of the things I think the possible criticism is it's the same 200 people that respond, or the same 400 people that respond, which is a modicum of our total population. But at the end of the day, kind of giving us, it's a lot of feedback, but it's the same feedback. It's a small portion, and I think that's one of the criticisms of it. As a general statement. So.
The other issue there was the calendar year versus the fiscal year. So reevaluating, like Councilman Blake just suggested, reevaluate before we really put everything in stone. Or amendment, as Andy, I think, suggested.
and that is a negative adjustment. You have that right there, so it sounds like they want to put that in there. Okay. There's one more essential item, let me see, make sure I have, okay. tracking that correctly. Yep. We had looked at additional cell phones and computer software allocations for everybody. I think we have that as a $2,000 placeholder. I don't know the actual because we haven't decided on if someone wants a full phone or if they want a stipend. If everybody wants to do it, I know Councilwoman Jackson's not here to make a decision. Is it at this point go ahead and budget as if everybody
I think she's
Received it.
interested in the phone, yeah.
She did a phone.
'Cause she's brought that up like multiple years.
Councilwoman, did she a phone?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, so the 20. You too.
Yes.
phone?
Okay, so 40
It's 2,000 right there. Minus.
minus the 1,000.
Yeah. Sorry. It's $480 times 4.
Yes, you round. Okay.
Yeah. So I just rounded up to 2,000 there. I did not talk about any additional software at this point. So right now we have budgeted for one Adobe additional software thing if someone wanted to Premiere.
That's still.
And I think you still said you may be underneath. So
Yeah.
$2,000 will get you another software package. And again, I think you could find it later on if we're talking about $200 total, or I can move that number. You can move that number a little higher than $2,000 to give yourself cushion.
2,000 is just for the cell phones. That's for just 4. So you need to go. We have the 5 already. So that you're adding the 2,000.
Yes, you don't need a full 2,000. Yeah, you already have
Okay.
the 500, so it's
Okay.
actually 1,500. So
So you're saying just keep that at 2,000?
if you kept it at 2,000, that'll probably cover all your software needs and 4 cell phone total packages. So put 2 in for now. Okay. The special projects coordinator position, that is what we were just talking about. I have it not funded right now. That was the 3rd position on the clerk's team. That 71 is with a salary of 51, and then the benefits that would come from a full-time. And that's if you funded a full-time. The only thing I heard from the conversation was maybe not. At minimum, if it was at maximum, it would be a part-time position. So I don't know if you guys want to put a placeholder number in there or just come back to this. But I do have that as on the list.
Is that what you were saying? Come back to the room 308, the clerk's council suite?
Yeah, I think we can talk about it all at the exact same time if you
Okay.
want to about staffing and space. I know that was a discussion topic that you all wanted to have. So we'll talk about it now. I'll talk about it at the end.
Doesn't. Council?
Well, let's just talk about it now. I think the council, we're looking at moving the city clerk's office over here, back over to where we were, to this building. So we'd have both the clerks, we have that extra office potentially for either interns and or staff, additional staff, either be part-time or full-time eventually. We could grow into the space even. Have a little kitchenette there, have a conference area so we can meet our constituents. We don't have any space or place over to headquarters. And so I think this would give us the opportunity to have our meeting area, our space, and to conduct our daily business with constituents and that kind of stuff.
So no increase to the budget for operations. Do we need to do we need to outfit or?
The only slight increase, I caught Steve on the way down. Typically, instead of doing a hard cost for the Canon, you still lease it. It's a lot smaller of a number, a few $100s. I could find out that number, but internet's included, everything else will be included. It's just you pay a recurring cost for your ink and your leasing of the computer of a printer if you wanted to have a smaller printer, but.
Build out furniture, anything, all of.
I think if you guys have savings this year, and then we also have some funding in some of the GOB, I think the build out, we could figure out how to do that with a one-time capital injection. I don't think you need to budget something in this upcoming budget. We'd look at how to do that with this year's funding if that was a decision point that was made.
So we'd be able to bring all the furniture and all of our things over.
If there is costs, we have savings within the council budget or with you all's budget, or we can find we have funding that we don't need to allocate funds for next year. We have funding in this fiscal year that we can.
Yes, the only thing that if you Right now, you have a workstation, and a workstation would be a desk, chair, computer, monitor for an intern. If you go with a part-time person and they aren't working at the same time, recycling of that stuff. If you add to your staff, you need a full setup again because 2 people would be there, so you need another desk, another chair, potentially that stuff. So that is just that would be the only added cost, depending if it becomes a full-time position. But that would be a decision if you end up hiring that person, then I think you put those 2 together. That would be a new cost. But moving everything from over there over to here, I don't think there's additional costs associated with that. That is beyond a capital that we would find. Correct.
I think that makes sense. I think, I'd like to see if we could get somebody for part-time, but
And that would be also, the part-time people to, even have our own ability to put out our own notices and stuff on a city council Facebook page. A way to communicate to our constituents. Somebody who would keep up with that social media platform. Somebody who would be able to post things that are council related, city council related. The ability to have access to releasing, press releases, or somebody who can do that. So I think it'd be a combination of things for a part-time person.
So you're leaning more toward a PIA position rather than an administrative position. Is that what I'm understanding?
Could be. It could be. It could be a combination of things. I think we just still need to discuss it, but I think, kind of wrapping in all of our needs. Maybe make a list of things that, you guys can't manage or you think that could be helpful to you. And then I know the council, would like to have people help return phone calls, and that's for us to have our own place to be able to put out our own, city council webpage or Facebook page for communications for constituents, things like that. So it could be a combination deal.
I think we can drill down on the job description, a bit more, but I think it would be a good thing to have somebody at least part-time to be able to give us support that, like I said, we all have outside things. We're not able to do this 24/7. This isn't a full-time job for us, and we all have to work. So, I think that having somebody who's able to field stuff that wouldn't necessarily fall under the purview of the clerk would be helpful.
Yes, we can manage without it. Yes, I think we would find value with it. So that's where I am. I think we could go around and around. We could.
Do you want me to at least populate it with a number for right now? And if it is a number, do you want it to be in a part-time capacity? Once we hit the final list, you can also then say, we can afford it, we can't, we should. It sounds like there's enough interest to at least put it in for right now.
I think so.
Okay. The line item right below yours is the Downtown Ambassador Program. You can see what 20 hours a week gives you. That's the cash of about $25,000. Do you want me to populate $25,000 right now as a number? Do you want me to go higher than that, lower than that?
Is that roughly what would have been what we would have had for this year?
The hourly rate might have been a little bit higher. I don't know if you would have done a full 20 hours. It might have been 2 days a week. So I think 25 I think it would anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000 is probably would hit the salary rate at that $51. So here's an example. If you go, Sandy, if you want to go to that other tab in case people are following, you see the personnel list on the next tab?
Yep.
So if you go on that, you can manipulate one of those. So if I manipulated the downtown ambassador $25 an hour and changed it to 14 hours per week, so 2 days a week, I'm looking at more like $21,000 rather than $25,000. But
Right.
again, that's up to you all at the end of the day.
Gotcha.
So 25 would cover, I think, what the hourly rate would be based off of
Yeah, I
that
think,
piece.
I mean, 20 would probably be good. I think that would be
20.
preferable to
Okay.
to zero.
And again, we can refine all of this if it
Right.
gets to that very end. The $5,000 up or down won't
Yeah.
make or break it.
What is
Unless you
this-
want to be more. Okay.
What's considered part-time?
Part-time is up to 21 hours. That's 3 days a week.
It's not, oh, there it is. Total, not budget. Okay. I was just putting it in if we, which is just about half. Yes, because
There's one difference on that is you have health insurance. The 71, the reason why that's higher is you have a full health insurance premium plan on top of that, and some retirement number built in, which are not afforded to part-time people. So you're really like at $51,000 divided by 2 gets you that 25. You do have some FICA and some workers' comp that's rolled into that.
so you're saying $20,000. I'm going up for the special projects coordinator. You're saying $20,000 for the part-time for that?
As a placeholder, I think 20 to 25 is a good placeholder.
And then same for the one just below it.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that one yet. That's one of the pieces that Michelle. So I'll put 20,000. If you just want to go ahead and put $20,000 in for that, it looks like you've done that. The Downtown Ambassador Program, Michelle, at 20 hours a week for one person for 52 weeks, it's just around $25,000.
That sounds about right.
So that would be essentially what Chris was doing on an ongoing basis now on average. Again, it may be cyclical, where you may not be doing it in the dead of winter, but you also may be doing more hours on your event
Right.
season. So, but on
Like,
average,
folk festivals. that
Sure.
sort of thing,
Yep.
you know?
So that still would be part-time for the,
it's yep. So on the personnel tab, again, this is a singular person at a rate of $20 per hour, 20 hours a week at 52 weeks. Salary it's 20,800 plus FICA. Workers' comp gets you to right around 23,500. I did budget, I think, slightly higher than that.
Yeah, same.
25. So
The special projects coordinator, that one isn't that, that's why
sorry.
my math wasn't the same. That's about $26 an hour, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That is a higher rate. So
Yeah, that's why my math was when you said 20,000, I was like, that's not what I calculated over here with my quick.
yep. So if you wanted, if I went to that tab and I did $25 an hour times 21 hours a week, you're at 30,816 would be 3 days a week at a rate of $25 an hour full time. So that would be recurring. So you're at 31. So again, whatever number you want to put there.
Gotcha. No, I wanted to make sure that if we were thinking about part-time, we was 20, then we go do a math. We go and do the math, and it's 31, and now we're 11 grand. We're shorting ourselves 11 grand.
You better go ahead and put 31 in. Just you can always reduce it.
I'm going to listen to my
Listen up.
fellow council members. If yay or nay or part-time, full-time.
I think part-time to start would be good, at least. Yeah. Yeah, and evaluate and
Again, this is usually when we do this, it's like, let's get on the whole list, then look at the nut total, and okay, now let's really
Yeah.
sharpen it up a little bit.
Okay.
But it sounds like,
keep
Sean,
it
if
at
I'm
the
listening to
25. Yeah,
25?
Yeah, keep it at the 25, I think, and then just because that seems to be what it works out to be with the just under it. So I think let's leave it at that for now. I think I'm good with that. Are you good with that?
you might have been saying the same. We were just talking about the special
you're
projects
talking-
coordinator at the
okay.
31
I thought
is
we were
the 3
still-
days a week. You're talking about 25 for the ambassador. So
Yeah.
I think you want the 25 for the ambassador.
Yeah,
Going back up to the third person, the clerk's office,
Okay.
3 days
All
a
right.
week
You
would
knew
be
there was
30.
a lot of Christmas.
Yeah, right. So
signals there. Okay. Got
was
the wires
quiet.
I'm
crossed.
tracking
Sorry.
it in my head right now,
I'm
but
looking
I'm
at
like,
this.
yeah.
I was going to say it at the end and then
know,
say,
I got
but
talking too
I'm quiet
fast.
because
Yeah.
yes,
I got crossed.
which is why I sometimes like to.
Thanks for pulling.
No, you're good. Thank you for catching that.
Yes.
I was still 5 minutes ago.
I have it over here.
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. Okay.
So let's do this. It's probably better to get everything in there.
And then we'll go back.
Yeah.
So,
we'll go back.
Sandy, let's put the $31,000 in for the special projects coordinator position. And then for the downtown ambassador, let's go with the actual number. It's 23,500. That's on the personnel tab. I wish Councilwoman Jackson was here for this next one. So the evening playground program, when we ran it, so there's daytime summer playgrounds, there's an evening program. What used to happen that no longer happened in the playgrounds, that is what she and I remember, was at Lake Street in Dover. There were evening playground program people that were there, and that was 5 nights a week, 4 hours a night, or 4 nights a week at 5 hours. So that was about $20, 20 hours per week. And then you had at least one person at each location. So this, as budgeted, is 2 people, 20 hours a week for a 12-week, essentially Memorial Day to Labor Day. That's kind of how we used to do it, at a rate of $20 an hour. That's how you get that $11,000. So that is just what I put as a placeholder. I'm not sure what her goal was.
Equipment,
ultimately.
we need to add that into there.
Yep, you would have to add in a few other things, with some rec and parks equipment and some things like that too, if that program does move forward. So that is something good to note. If we put the 12,000, you may hit that one soon.
What playgrounds again would they be on?
Lake Street and Doverdale, right?
It's typically where they have been historically.
Right, yeah, okay.
And then from an equipment standpoint, I put in 11. 11 is the salaries. I have it at 12 because that's $1,000 worth of startup equipment and stuff like that. So balls, bats, and things like that. Depends on how much of a, is it a supervisor, or are they actually doing programming? What's the goal? Traditionally, it was to make sure that you had somebody who could flip on the lights, manage the bathrooms, kind of be more of a site supervisor, to keep the park open and operating, less of a programmer who was actually organizing sports and leagues and things like that. So a lot of different ways to split it down. She knows the whole system, but
Yeah.
so what would you like us to do?
I would keep it. I know this has been very important to her. And if she says ditch it, let her say that. But I know she's been advocating for that for years.
Yeah,
for the
for sure.
evening. So
Yeah.
I think it's appropriate to keep the placeholder.
And I was having conversations, and there are volunteers that are ready to go with this program. They just need the site to be accessible, lights to be on. And I think if we have a person there to do that, and then some equipment, people are going to utilize this. So yes, I support this.
I totally support it, only because, we're supposed to be doing things for our children. And Rachel can attest to the turnout for the, and this is labeling, forgive me, for children that are in need, even if somebody else might define them as such. Our children need someplace to go. And it doesn't matter whether it's, bells and whistles, but someplace it's safe and someone oversees it.
Super.
And I know years ago, this was, a great thing in the playgrounds.
Right.
And kids are in need, and the parents are in need of having something for their children.
Especially during these warm months.
Exactly.
For sure. Yeah, I'm all for
Definitely
it. I think
keep
this is
it.
great.
All right, those are the easy ones.
Yep.
All right, if we get into the CIP funding, so these are the big ticket items. It was brought up about the ambulance. So running the numbers, the $2.5 million, an annual lease payment at our current rates is $426,000 for 4 ambulances. Our existing ambulance lease payment, which we got at a really favorable rate a few years ago, for 3 was $189,000. So in 2027, that lease amount will come off, so that will be reduced. So what you would be looking at if the ambulances contractually were brought online now, you would have a lease payment 3 years from now. So it's 426 minus the 189 would be the piece. None of this money is realized in this budget, but it would be an obligation, a future obligation. Mm-hmm. So that's something. Good. I keep jumping in.
Pointing out the opposite.
Yeah,
No, you're doing great. You're great.
We were just on the ambulance piece right there.
I don't think you can avoid putting the ambulances in there. I really don't. it's a safety issue for the entire city and obviously, the county as well.
So what did you all fund? Am I looking here?
We've already put so much more money in it when you left.
That's why I was hoping I would leave and then come back to this one, it'd be solved.
Now, what we were saying is for the ambulances, it's $426,000. If we, on current rates, the lease for the existing 3 ambulances is $189,000. It comes off after 2027. So essentially, the delta of those two would be the new cost once we actually had these online. So we would be obligating ourselves to a future expenditure, which we know we're going to have to do eventually. The question is to just go ahead and make that decision now, knowing you're going to pay for it in 3 years. But there is, because we're adding an additional ambulance and the cost of everything has gone up, as well as the lease. That's like at 1.1%. We're now in the 4% range. So it's just borrowing money is just a lot more expensive too now. So that's why it's such a higher jump, but there is a little bit of savings.
Well, and the 3 ambulances were 1.2 million when we leased those.
Yeah, so 1.2 million.
1.2 million for 3.
And now it's 2.5 for 4. So you're going from a $400,000 ambulance is now a $600,000 ambulance. So that's you can see the cost. So every and that's only 4 years ago when we started
Unreal.
this payment. Yeah.
Okay.
Radios. If we added the fire radios back in, we'd probably try to bond it the same way that we did with the police. You're looking at $14,973. Police vehicles, you can see what that number is.
So that would be 17 vehicles. They said
They said they needed 17. They only, they were going to get to 17 and it was going to take them 3 years to get there.
Okay.
So this 525, I believe, is 7 vehicles.
Okay.
Then it'll be 5.
Yeah, so maybe 2 year would be 7. It would be 7 and then an additional 3 the third year. Okay. So, but the CIP as requested was 525. We did not fund that.
Slow
Andy,
that down
did
for me.
you
You just said a lot, and I want you to slow it down because
Yep. Okay.
So
in the actual CIP, the request from PD for vehicles was $525,000. That equates to, I believe, 7 patrol vehicles.
okay.
The request that came in yesterday was saying to get us to where we needed to be was 17, but they knew that's too much to ask for in 1 year. So the idea was 7 this year, 7 next year, and then you pick up the last 3 in the third year.
and this number 525 is just for 7. I thought maybe 5. Okay, 7.
Why is the number and the possible? You've done the math with 5.
Yep. Say that one more time.
Did I get the number?
Can you click on the look at the formula, right?
So that formula is actually, it's actually not for 5. So what that is, that's a 5-year lease year.
5 years? Okay, got
It's
it.
actually, we should probably change it to 7 because it's actually, we usually do 7-year lease. So it drops it down to 87,000.
So this is the total. The 525.
Yeah, the 525 and then your actual payment is based off of a lease schedule. Yeah, that's just a formula. So if you bought them in cash, it'd cost you $525,000.
You're saying this is just for this fiscal year to 117.
117, but you'd carry that cost for 5 years.
Sure. Right. But
It's actually, since it's, you said it was,
this.
So yeah, $525,000 would get us 7 vehicles.
okay.
Our carrying cost would be 117 if we did a 5-year lease. We would do a 7-year for this.
Typically, we only do vehicles for 5 years.
Okay,
So it's 5.
so 5. So that's a real number of.
117,
Yep.
okay. That's why I was asking. I was like, I
So
wasn't sure
589,
if we-
646 versus 525.
Okay, I know what you're saying.
Right?
So the 525 is it's like that's how much if I took 7. I'll tell you real quick. I'm sorry. I used to be good at math.
I think you're doing really well, Andy.
I ended up putting
So that's $75,000 per vehicle is what it
Yes.
costs.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep. So if we bought 7 of them at $75K a piece, our recurring debt on those would be $117,000 per year for 5 years.
For the 5 years, yes.
Yes.
So in each of the next, for the each of the next
Yep.
5 years, we're going to see 117 for just
Correct.
5 vehicles.
Correct. Yep.
Which it comes out to 589,646.
So you're saying that's a cumulative cost?
Yes, sir.
Yes. That's where I was missing you. Yep. So cost of borrowing money. Yes.
Yes. So, but that's just for 5. They've asked for 7. We're still 12 behind. Right?
No, the 525 is for 7 vehicles. They still need 10 more after
So
that.
7 for 5 years. Okay, so now we're still 10 behind.
Needed.
Yeah.
You said what?
Needs an aggressive word.
Yeah.
Yeah, just,
Well,
I know, we need to replace them over time.
or we have no officers, and then we have
Yeah.
we don't. Yeah. So I mean,
That's a bigger philosophical.
Yeah, we appreciate the need for take-home vehicles and we'll get into some of the financial stuff. When there's only so much money to go around, we believe, do I invest it in the salaries? Do I invest in the equipment? Do I invest in the vehicles? The pie is only so big. At some point, we're out of money, so we have to decide. And one of the more complicated things when you talk about a take-home vehicle process is you're obligating yourself to a type of behavior that once you go take home for everybody, the assumption is it will be take home forever. So there will probably be a capital replacement of take home vehicles in perpetuity of anywhere from 3 to 5 vehicles every year moving forward when you get fully funded. So you have to also decide, is this the direction the city wants to go, is to have a full take home vehicle program. So I understand the want, and it is a very good recruitment tactic. I am not sure if as you can see, we did not fund it because we were spending our money on salaries and other things this year.
It's become a cultural thing in the sense of, I mean, how many teachers get a take-home vehicle? I mean, how many firemen get a take-home vehicle? How many bankers get a take-home vehicle? I mean, it's sort of a cultural thing. I get it, but it comes with repairs and gas and other things, and so it's an expensive jump up. And so that's it.
respectfully, I don't want to.
That's me.
Yeah,
That's where I am.
I don't want to.
I get it.
Compare jobs and job descriptions with teachers and police.
So that's
But-
that's kind of where I'm going.
No, I understand, but I think we've heard the loud and screams, and we are the only jurisdiction within a 60, 75 to 90 mile radius that does not have take-home vehicles now.
We have a fair amount. They want more. So
We are the only jurisdiction for 60 to 90 miles that does not have take-home vehicles. The exclusion is Ocean City, and with them excluding the seasonal program, then we will be the only jurisdiction that does not have take-home vehicles. We have a fair amount, but we don't have take-home vehicles. So
we have police officers take vehicles home. I'm just saying. Look, we
for
don't.
new recruits and for,
Controversial.
no, I'm not trying to get into this. I'm just saying. Okay, so
Are there not police officers that take casual?
We don't have
each of our officers.
every
does not have
officer
it.
is not.
Yes,
It's not a
yes.
fully funded.
You mean a
take-home
fully funded
program.
one?
Yes, some have it. Not everybody has it. We need 17
That's all I was saying.
officers to.
Carrot also for recruiting.
Yeah.
In other words, after you've done your probationary period of 2 years, then this is what we're holding out here for you, your take-home vehicle. So it's a
Yes.
recruitment.
How many probationary officers do we have right now that would be coming in, or are there some that would be coming in to possibly taking one of these take-home vehicles?
So, if you're reading between the lines of what Howie was saying yesterday, based off our current staffing model and staff who are going through our academy and are on probation right now, in the end of 2 years from now, when they're entering their 3rd year, we would need 17 additional vehicles at our current model to make sure everybody who's qualified had one. So if that helps.
I've actually I've spoke with, let's just average 5 graduates from the last 3 graduating class at Warwick, right? They went all over. We were one of the few, if not 1 or 2, that those new recruits did not leave, and after they're done with their initial couple weeks or months of training, they don't have a vehicle that they're parking in their driveway. That's what I'm getting at. These are people who are year 1, they're getting a vehicle, and we've seen, and I've got the data and have the conversations where people are leaving our department because it's not of course money, but they have a vehicle where they can take it home. They don't have to trade with someone else. This is what we're hearing. We're not guessing on this. This is what we're actually hearing. And I know that, the dollars, it's not pretty, but I think for us to get closer to there, I just did the math on if we do 3 more vehicles versus the 7 that we have there. So it's taking the payment from 116 to 168. Again, not a huge jump, but it's that gets us that much closer. So what else can we do to get closer to that 17 number, knowing that hopefully we get into this production year before it ends, that it's going to be at least 12 months before we get the next round of vehicles in. And that we still have 2 frozen positions. We have 1 recruit now that's in the class, and we're still not doing our community programs. We're still not doing all the things that we were doing 10, 15, 20 years ago, and that our officers are overworked, working more hours than either jurisdiction.
Well, the truth is, we have filled 10 positions in the last year. We're at fully staffed than we've ever been in our history.
And 7 of them are leaving. 6 of them are leaving.
Well, that's normal. That's a normal part of but I'm just saying, all I'm saying is that, we didn't attract them here with take-home cars. And I'm not saying, listen, we want to take care of our officers, we want to take care of our fire police. It's not an if and black and white. We're just saying, listen, within the confines of what we had to work with, I think it's a good thing to expand our take-home program, if that's a thing that needs to be a tool. But at the same time, I think I don't want to get involved in this false pressure that we've, but
This has been something that we've discussed.
Yeah, it's not false.
I'm sure.
It's not false pressure when the employees are saying this.
We're bringing it. We're bringing it. We're not saying.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're talking about bringing it, but this is, we changing, we backspacing these numbers is actually going to bring it, but the employees are telling us, these are the actual people who are filling these and driving around our community, working the 84 hours a week. 84 hours every 2 weeks. They're telling us is it 84 hours a week?
I wish it was a week. No, I'm just kidding.
Whatever. Yeah. But anyway, they work the more hours, but they're telling us what the fact of the matter is, and that we're having our seasoned officers leave.
I talk to our command staff on a weekly basis about the needs and recruitment. I fully understand the why. We fully understand that. At the end of the day, when we have to try to balance a budget, the mayor and I and our team decided this was on the outside looking in, which we'll get into some of the ongoing CBA negotiations that are still not finalized. We understand that we still may be having to obligate ourselves to future secure additional funding for payroll. So at this point, we just did not do it. You don't have to necessarily convince us.
Yeah.
It is up to you guys on if you want to put it in or not. But I understand the need. It is a real need. But at the end of the day, it did not make it in on our final list.
We're back. We did this. Back in the lollipop phase. I get it.
When I make 2 phone calls, I want to make sure in 4 minutes I got someone to my house, and it's police and fire.
Yeah.
That's not to exclude everyone else in our departments, but and I think this is something where we've now been talking about it, but it's real now that we are one of the few departments who we talk about pay, and we know where we are with that. And again, it's a hard bargain when we have 112 or 110 sworn officers. But this is the real. And I think I just, and the passion is because I've been hearing it from the officers, I've been hearing it from the staff. So I have to, it is my obligation now. I have to relay that. I have to say it, because if not, then I'm doing them a disservice. So I have to have that same passion they've been telling me week after week, day over day. But that's what they've been wanting.
Well, the other thing is too, by putting into this, I think all 4 of us, I can't speak for the other 3, but I'm assuming the 4 in April as well, all feel very strongly when this was presented that it's something that needs to be funded sooner than later. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to be on track to guarantee 5 the next budget or 3 the final budget. But if we do the 5, and if that goes through a budget, and then we skip a budget, and then we put in 5 more, I don't know if that's doable. I don't know if that's not something that is even, advisable. But I do think that we've got to do something in order to keep the police and the fire department, not totally acquiesce to everything they ask for, but at least compromise in some way. I think the vehicles, after listening to everyone, the vehicles and the radios, they translate to our taxpayers' safety. So just my thoughts on that.
And it takes a year to get these vehicles, so we order them, we get them now, we get the 7 that looks like we're ordering up. It takes a year for them to even arrive. So it's a year before anyone would even qualify or have the.
Impact us.
Yeah, impact the program for the take-home car. But I know that, that the many years I've been here, from day one, this has been a big thing, and.
Would you like Sandy to put them in here? It's like for a placeholder, or do you want a less than 7 vehicles? There's a lot of.
I think 7 would be a good
I
faith.
said 5, I meant 7, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think
Let's go with 5.
I think 7 would be a good faith investment to show, hey, we're serious about this. We're going to move this forward, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, with prices going the way they are, I don't know what it's going to look like next year.
That's also my concern with
We can't. I want us to get ahead of any kind of shortages, because we're seeing that. I mean that's.
So I would be willing to
Look at 10.
well, yes. So I would be willing to get closer to the 10 and then sunset or even push behind the special projects coordinator for our department. If
That helps.
that help, I mean, I just, like I said, I've been in, and we didn't even blink with the ambulance and those things. I feel just as strongly with that.
The ambulance you get to pay for in 3 years from now. You don't have to pay for it tomorrow.
So
But
at 425, we don't.
You don't pay
I
for
got
that
because
for
we're
like
the
3
189 for.
that's an easy one. Like, I'll pay for it in 3 years. I haven't got the credit card bill for that.
Andy, shit.
But again, guys, I just want to make sure it's clear. We are not against the idea. I just want to make sure when we get to the bottom of this thing and you see the running tally, you'll just understand. So it sounds
I've
like
already peaked, so I'm just. But yes, yeah, I got you.
put it
I'm
in.
already
Yeah.
scrolling down, dude.
Okay, so it sounds like you want to put in the 117,929.
Yeah.
Right now, did you want to go higher than that?
The number that's there right now is for 7 vehicles.
Correct.
I heard 10 vehicles, because I think it will.
Quickly, 117. No.
Will it go up to 168?
Yes.
The lease will go up to 168
If
for
you
10. And we get them in a year.
We do
You guys got to convince yourselves. Then I have to convince
like
them.
buy 9 get 2 free.
Yeah.
Is there a little punch card? Is there
You get
a
an
punch card
officer
for
when you buy
first?
10.
You said what?
You get an officer with the 10 you buy.
Get free lights and sirens.
Yeah, it's
You just get a bicycle horn.
And come with his own radio.
Yeah, it's getting late in the day. I can tell now.
Deal.
Buy 9 with
There it is. There.
Either buy 9 with a bicycle.
All right, put it in. Okay. All right. Sanitation truck. A slightly used one I did.
You found one for $58,000?
No, that's the lease payment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You got. Can you put? Oh, I see lease on the side. Okay, I was like, man.
So originally it was asked.
Way on the side.
The original ask was $475. Brand
Is that
new.
a front loader or side loader?
That is the rear loader.
Rear loader.
Yeah. That's what they need. They need
Okay.
it's the rear packer is what they're asking
That's
for.
what I need.
That's what
They asked for $475. I
Did
put
you find one,
$350.
Randy? Did
We found one for like $250.
Really?
you're just aiming high.
Because that could be off the lot tomorrow. Just
You
I just had
just put 300 in there. Just to we need some extra.
if I change that.
275.
Sandy, if you change the number from 350 to 275, do I get 250?
You're right.
No, but Randy found one for what?
Are we playing?
260.
That-
Well, you got what is the shipping on that?
That's
The
true.
mayor has some connections. Come on, call. This is the time. Get on the horn.
Did that repopulate the lease number? Did it change it?
It did. Yes.
Okay, if you want to go ahead and put that into there.
Oh my gosh.
Brian, let's make a deal over here.
Because that is a sanitation truck, it is not a fleet vehicle. I think we usually, because I have mine as a 7-year calculation. You just need to make sure that you guys are comfortable with that, not a 5-year.
Is that one that would be a
Well, it's supposed
year or
to. It's supposed to last.
Heavy equipment, we usually do 7 years.
It's supposed to last 15, right?
We push it to 20, but yeah. Mike was saying they can go you're supposed to replace them every 7 years. I feel comfortable with that because this is a rear and a secondary one, a second line.
Yeah.
It will be more than 7 years. So I feel very comfortable with the 7-year lease for this type of heavy equipment.
Change slightly used to very used.
Wasn't at the bottom of the barrel, Randy, when you set out?
No, it's good. It's good. I mean, 475 is premier. It is very, very
That's got to
nice.
jumpstart it.
We want,
Okay.
gotta buy a key.
Well, ironically, the new ones that came in, we had a multiple problems
did.
right out of the gate.
Yeah.
3 of them.
I
So
believe it.
We
I
did.
believe
You
it.
don't buy
Old is
yourself,
better. Old is better.
which we didn't have to pay for,
You
but
need a
it took
rebate.
time.
Yeah, this sakes.
So these ones that are 18 months old have a lot of the bugs worked out of them. You know what I mean? Theoretically, anyway.
Should, yeah. Knock on wood for that one, Mayor.
Hey.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're keeping score,
Did you want those in?
oh yeah,
I was kind of hearing that.
Yeah.
Were we able to combine the police and the fire department radios?
I think
To
so.
find out if they were or enough alike that they could be grouped together?
Grouped together in the sense that we could probably bond for all radios rather than doing one lease. And I think it was just an oversight because 2 different departments were issuing that. But
Okay.
yeah, they're different radios, but I think you could put them all together in the same
Okay.
bond pool. Okay, Sandy, can you give me where are we at right now with our variance?
I can see it with this.
0.694
1.694. So still under the target, just over
over the target by 94,000.
94,000. Yep. Now, we have not gotten to the final one that is highlighted in yet. Well, I have it highlighted in yellow on mine. So the finance adjustments, go ahead.
Did you take out the special projects coordinator for the clerk's office?
We have not. Would you like?
Because I think that was on the table if we were able to save some money, especially going in with the cars for this year. So, correct, council?
I just want to ride along, a couple ride alongs and police vehicles.
Right?
So if we go back up the line, 20 PAC 14 adjustments.
Yes.
There is an additional email I sent you that's like a PDF file. I wanted to drill down on that real quick. Yeah, I sent it to you too. It should be right
Let me see.
Yeah, I got it.
Should be attached in the email right there. Sandy has an additional. There it is. So this was the question on how is it funded. So I've given you a history of the last 11 years plus the last 3 years in detail. And you can see that what PAC 14 was receiving all the way back in 2018, which we used to budget 155, they were receiving $123,000, and it has systematically just gone down every year to what we are projecting this year to be down to $83,000. Now, I need an assist from finance on the reason for it, but this is not us just giving them a check and saying, here's your $115,000 like we budgeted. It's based off of our contractual agreement with how we fund them based off of, I think, franchise users. So based off of that, you can see that if we budget for 115, we're not going to come anywhere close if the same conditions happen. So I have suggested you could even go down to $90,000 and still probably be well within, under your budget. So there's another $25,000 if we wanted to budget closer to actuals. Now, there's a philosophical question here too, that PAC 14 is a partner of ours. So even though we're contractually obligated to give them this, I need to understand better on, is there an opportunity, would we want to, because we've already funded it at 115, figure out how to give them the rest of it. It's not what we're obligated to do, and I don't necessarily know that contract very well, but I wanted it to be a discussion topic. And I know this usually runs through finance, so Sandy or Phil or even Shawanda, I'm not sure if you know and Tom's here too, because I'd love Tom to come jump into this conversation.
Tom was
He's like,
explaining
I'll
to the
take some-
hallway.
yeah.
There is a reason I'm behind the camera.
But this is still recorded, Tom, so.
That all depends.
Yes, and there's captions and subtitles.
He's going to go over it right now.
It's another county
Yeah, so.
issue too, I believe, right, Tom?
Well, don't think I received the email, but let me, PAC 14 is funded by the franchise fees collected from cable subscribers. So the county and the city collect the franchise fees from Comcast subscribers. ordinance, I want to say 2085, I think I sent that out, but I'm not too sure of the number right now. According to an ordinance, when Jim Ironton signed it, he said that 30% of the franchise fees the city collects will go to the public access channel, PAC 14. So over the years, because of the cutting the cable movement, those funds have been decreasing. And because of that ordinance, it showed us what the census was in the city, and we could kind of equate that with the county, but it showed us that the funds of franchise fees were declining. And over the last 10 years, I think they have dropped considerably, maybe 12, 15% or so.
So we could not necessarily change who is using Comcast, but the ordinance at 30% is something that is locally established or decided?
The ordinance is locally decided. We were going to request an increase of the franchise fees cut for PAC 14 because it has been declining. Now, we used the 30% basis for our negotiations with the county, saying, you know, the city is giving us 30%, we would like 30% from the county. The county historically collects maybe twice as much cable. And so in the 25 years, they were just matching the city, saying that what's fair is fair. And I fought with the city's giving us
County and the word fair a little.
No, that's okay. I don't want to say that.
You said
I shouldn't have said it. I shouldn't have said that. I'll ask PAC 14 to cut that from the record. We don't do that. We don't do that. So just to give you an idea, so there's the franchise fees that the city collects.
Okay.
And there's also a PEG fee that PAC 14 has put on cable subscribers. I think it might be 70 cents per month. And that goes to our capital expenses. You cannot use capital expenses for operational. The franchise fees are for operational expenses. If you use operational fees for capital expenses, or capital fees, the PEG fees for operational, then Comcast will deduct those fees from the franchise fees that they collect. Even though they're not paying anything, the cable subscribers are paying both the franchise fees and the PEG fees. So
I want to slow you down, Mr.
No.
So just because, how does it, when Comcast, I'm trying to use the terminology, with the franchise fees, who controls, like, where does that go? Where do the franchise fees?
Okay, so the franchise fees that Comcast subscribers pay, I was going to say Comcast, but Comcast subscribers pay are 5% of their cable television bill. So we've requested the county and the city do an audit to make sure that Comcast is really collecting the right amount from all their cable TV subscribers. Historically, the last time we did it 12 years ago or so, I forget exactly when, they were under-reporting their franchise fees to both the city and the county. So they had to pay a little bit extra. In all the cities that we've researched who have asked them for an audit, strangely enough, they've always been under-reporting their franchise fees to the municipalities and would have to kick in some money. So it's just a matter of asking them, are they, collecting the franchise fees that they should?
Who controls that pot of money? Like, where does that go? And then,
so after the 5%, it's 5% according to the telecommunications law. So 5% goes to the city and the county. And then the city, the money they collect, they give PAC 14 30%.
and is that what this line item is, or that's in addition to?
So there's a fund in the city of franchise fees. So when
essentially he gets 30% of whatever we collect, so 70%, we get the 100% of
Right.
the revenue, we offset it here.
What I'm saying is this line item that us paying PAC 14 the franchise fees or no?
See, I don't know. I don't know the bookkeeping on the city end of it.
We pay it quarterly, and this is what we pay them. This is why it's going down, because our franchise revenue has.
Gotcha. So that answers the
So
question.
this is going down as well.
So based off of current salary, okay, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, who sets the franchise fees? Do we set the franchise fees, or is that something set?
The Telecommunications Law of 1980 set the franchise fees for,
1980.
or was it 84? No, I think it was 80.
So either way.
I think it was 80, and it might have been updated since then. It was updated to allow Comcast to pass the franchise fees onto their subscribers. So they set it at 5% of the cable.
Oh, it is
bill.
5%. See, it's not up for, because it's up for renegotiation, I thought.
The Comcast contract is up for negotiation. Now, the big thing, well, the franchise fee, the 5% is set by federal law. And so basically, the argument is internet is not included in that 5%.
But we still pay a franchise fee.
The internet?
I'm pretty sure there's a franchise on my.
Yes, there's probably a 5%.
Yeah, because I just have just internet, but I still pay a franchise fee.
Because it might be bundled with basic cable. I'm not too sure how Comcast works it, and nobody is too sure how Comcast works. And I think they like
My
it
husband
that
used to
way.
work for Comcast.
Okay.
And I
So
tell you that.
it's one of those things
They don't
where
know how it works.
my argument was the wires, cables used to bring internet in the house are covering the same thing that cable TV cables are doing. Why doesn't it
3106.
translate? But Comcast lawyers say it doesn't translate.
So the county is trailing off the same way we are.
No, we finally got the county to see that we need more money. So the county has stepped up. And we asked 2 years ago, we asked for 30% of what they would collect. Yes.
So just to roll this forward, I had Miss Sandy pull up the actual numbers and the figures that you can get there, and just to help my council vice president out, the actuals from 2024 were 312,906 it looks like, and for 2025 actuals 140. And if you do 30% of that 140, you get to that 42, which was the actuals there, which is that line item. So that is the 30% there. So if we're looking into increasing that 30%, even if we go to 60%, we're going to get to that $90,000, and that would be increasing our contribution to PAC 14. That's what the original question.
Yeah, so a couple items on there. Doing the audit, because we're 70 cents on every dollar that we are not collecting we are not collecting on our revenue side. We give them 30 cents on it. So if they want that extra 30 cents, so every dollar that is not being audited and collected by us, because we are not getting real numbers, we lose 70 cents. They lose 30 cents. So that is something that, if now that I'm hearing this out loud, it's probably something we should really do, because we're losing money. They're losing it, but we're losing the lion's share of it. Right. So we should think about that. The second part, though, is if it's
already paying this, it's just we're not getting it.
Potentially, yes.
Even if they're watching.
So we'd have to figure out how to do that and clean that up.
Right. Every Comcast subscriber is paying some kind of franchise fee in Wycomico County.
365 days or 0 days, and they still we still get the money from that. Right?
We're supposed to.
If Comcast, and I don't know why the auditing would be such a hard thing for Comcast to do. You're providing a service.
We got to tell all the residents to flip through Channel 4 every so often. To make sure.
Well, no, whether they're watching it or not.
So that's what I'm. Okay.
Yeah. So whether they're watching it or not. Okay. It's a matter of are they signed up for some kind of basic cable television?
Gotcha.
Right. So what I am saying is let's pretend we did do the audit and the numbers are correct, and that it's just had this steep of a drop. We are currently budgeted for 115, which it's going to be based off of our revenue projections. It's more like 90 is what we'd have. So if we either cut what we're giving them, or if there's an appetite, that 30% can go up, and if it went up to 40%, you're at 115. So we would give them a bigger share of the pie. It would not actually affect our revenue, and it wouldn't affect what we've already budgeted. It would affect future stuff, because you guys would have to decide to give them a bigger piece.
Your percentage that you just said, that was the percentage of what was budgeted, not the percentage of what we give them of our franchise fees, right?
Yeah, so we
I
are
was
giving
talking
them
about, because I don't want to confuse them.
Yeah.
I was talking about, so right now we give them 30, the ordinance that, under Mayor.
I think it's 2085.
Yes, so it's 30% of the franchise fees. I was saying we could go up to 60% and still not meet that $90,000 budgeted item that you were saying.
Based on the new numbers?
Based on the current numbers. So that's why I was saying that we could.
It's a little confusing.
We could still budget 90,000, and if our delta is we still have 30% to play with. So if we decide to give you all 45%, and let's say the numbers increase, we still won't meet that $90,000 budget item if we go from 115 to $90,000. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can run some of the numbers. I want to make sure when you're going to
I'm looking at the.
Sure.
You flip.
Sure. Sandy, what did we budget as our, for FY26? What's our total? And is that just Comcast? So 320, 30% of that is 96,000. So that is, if we're just doing 30%, $96,000 is what should be translated here if that's what we actually collected. That is a projection, right? So you always want to be a little more conservative.
And so what I'm saying is the trend is going down. I mean, we don't have as many, we know people aren't having TV, basic cable. So the actuals for 2024 were 312, and then the actuals for 2025 are 140. So that's why the amount was so small, because it dropped that low, right? Is that what we're...
Actuals is not our final payment, so we may have 2 additional payments that are still due.
Is going to be additional, what, $150,000?
I think we've only gotten 2 payments, so you have to double that.
Okay, wait, I need to hear.
We got 2 payments, it looks like.
How much are the payments?
About 70,000.
Okay, well, that changes.
Yeah, sorry.
Got to start.
Start with that. Yeah, so on the actuals, we have not gotten the last 2 quarter installment revenue things.
Disregard my last 3 minutes of what I just said. Start with that, Mr. Kitzford. So
it's very confusing because the franchise fees and the PEG funds and the 30% and the county's contribution. So it can be confusing. The PEG fund, the franchise fees that are collected by the city and the county can be used in the general fund.
Okay. So I think we should, your recommendation, keep it at 90. We do the audit to see if we can recoup some more funds, right? From the...
It's budgeted at $115,000. So if you're going to keep it at $115,000, we're going to have savings realized because we only can give them 30% of what we collect. So either you change.
That was my question. I mean, I think the goal would be to give them 115, but we can't do it according to the ordinance and the amount we're collecting. So I don't know whether we can do a special exception to that.
You just create another ordinance. You have to do another ordinance to increase the 30% to a higher number. So then they get a bigger piece of it, getting them closer to the 115 of actual, but that's how you would have to do
Even
that.
what we budgeted of the revenue, that we received in 320, 30% of that is 96,000. So that's closer to the 90 than the 115. And can you go back up to the... And it looks like, and last year the actuals were 312. So what, are we thinking we're going to get more than 320?
No, so what I'm saying is the $115,000 payment that we give to them is an overpayment that we are budgeting would be an overpayment based off of the actual revenues that we are collecting right now. So we would either need to adjust down our expenditure because we're not going to have that same revenue, or adjust up the percentage that we are giving to PAC 14 if we are comfortable with still budgeting the 115.
I'm conflating again because of the actuals. I'm sorry. Okay, so years past, 96, 104, 112, 116, 117. That's what you all have received from us.
I would have to check the number. I know that it's maybe 12-15% lower than when it...
If I'm saying this correctly, I think what we need to do is give them what we statutorily owe them according to the agreement, and then look at the numbers and then retroactively change our ordinance to allow them for the amount we really want to reimburse them based on current revenues.
I don't know, why does the ordinance even have a percentage? I think we should adjust that.
Well, basically, like I said,
a piece of whatever we get.
That's why I think it should just be whatever. I don't know.
Well, when PAC 14 started, and not knowing what kind of budget we would have, Jim Ireton believed that giving you a set number, we would be able to tell how the,
Because it's confusing this way.
Well, it's we don't shortchange them. If we don't make it, they don't get it, but we also don't overpay if we don't get. So it's both ways as a percentage base. But right now, their operating costs, they don't get to choose to fluctuate if the
I
money.
think you're going the opposite direction in terms of costs.
well, with the increase in duties and services that we've been providing, we've been going up in costs while our revenue has been coming down through the cable cutting.
Well, what have you done with the 1.2 million that Wycomico gave you?
Yeah, that's been tooth and nail on,
I'm sure.
on everything.
Okay.
But
Did you get it? Did you?
no,
I'm kidding.
I did ask,
Yeah, sure.
but
Do you want us to keep the 115 as budget, and we can figure out how to? All right, we'll keep the 115 right there, and Don will figure out how to make that work.
with any of the audits that if you need any information, I just don't know. It was 12 years ago, and I have no clue because I had just started working at PAC 14. I just know that they did the audit. I just have no recollection of who did what. And then, of course, Comcast asked for a specific wording as to the auditing that they're having to do.
Who knew this was going to be the most, man.
I didn't want to be here. Really.
Yeah, Tom.
But I'm glad to be here
Yeah.
to answer any questions.
All right, I'm even more confuddled, but I think I'm clear now. We're going to keep it the 115. We're going to renegotiate the amount that you all are receiving. We look at that, but make sure that you all are getting the full, close to the number as possible.
We'll work.
That makes more sense. Thank you for that.
Okay.
And then change the ordinance if we have to.
We're going to, we're looking to change that language. Thank you.
Last big item.
Thanks.
Press play. Yeah.
Okay.
So did you, I want to make sure I put that on mine as well. Go back to PAC 14. So are we taking that 20, what are you doing with that 25?
I'm just gonna leave it off.
Okay.
Just not do anything with it.
Cool, thank you.
Doesn't have to be decided today. I know Councilwoman Michelle needs to, Blake Gregory needs to leave. There is still a conversation that you all need to have that needs to be decided either now or determined at a different point. We are currently in active negotiations with 3 bargaining units. The mayor's office did budget for a 1.5 step increase to all 3 units: general government, police, and fire. All 3 unions, none of the unions agreed to those terms. We are actively scheduled to go to arbitration with the IAFF beginning of June. And we have not had final conversations with AFSCME and or the FOP for the other 2 bargaining units.
Councilor Gregory, do you have any comments on this portion here? I know this is a biggie for.
Yeah, this is kind of a big,
Yeah, so we can talk about it more, but there is, you'll need to decide either, we are at an impasse financially with this payroll, so depending on what you end up deciding to do here, there could be an additional payroll cost that has not been determined yet because there's not been a settlement reached with any of the 3. And I can walk through what those not tactics, but understanding what those options are. So no decisions, more informational. Option 1 is all 3 of the units decide that what we have budgeted, they come to realization that's what they want to do, and they settle and say, like, yep, we'll take that. Unlikely. Option 2 is option 2 is they go to arbitration, all 3 units. We are at an impasse financially. They give a last and best final offer. We have our 1.5%. An arbitrator will determine if our 1.5 steps. If what we've recommended as our best and final is awarded, which is budgeted, or what their best and final is, it would be awarded. So that that number is, each unit has a different agreed upon number. Go ahead.
Just for clarification, the 1.5 steps is 3%. That's kind of our language. Okay.
Yep. So at 3%, perfect. Thank you. So we've budgeted 3% on average. they have different levels of their requests. And then the third option that some locations do is there is a compromise that is made prior to going to an arbitration. Because of the way our labor code is written and the timing of negotiations, we had to submit a budget before we came to any final number or compromise. So it is out of our hands, the mayor's office, to be able to do any further negotiations for salaries with the 3 units. All we could do is council gets to decide if there's any further considerations to be offered to the bargaining units, additional increases to salaries, or if no, then we would probably proceed to arbitration, and then we will be told what will be salaries, and then we would have to make considerations then from a funding standpoint. So we did leave you with a tough decision. A one-step increase is included as a possibility, and this is just for the general fund. That's $690,000. I do know that the 3 units, the last offers that were received from each one of them was in excess of 1 step per each above where we're at. The FOP was considering 1 additional step, but the other ones are above that. Based off of where we currently are sitting with some of the projections, if arbitration was successful based off of what we are considering are going to be the union's final offers, it would be an additional increase above what we have submitted of $1.6 million in budget. So when we have added all of those additional items, it could be an additional up to additional $1.6-ish million in the general fund. There will be an effect on the water and sewer fund as well. So I'm going to pause there. You don't have to make any decisions. I know you're missing 2 people, but that is because we were having a conversation about some of that stuff. Do you have any questions?
Andy, I have a clarification. When Dan was telling us last, I believe I have this right, so clarify for this for me, if you will.
That was in a
Closed session.
That was a closed session.
Oh,
So
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you were okay.
What would what is our best position?
So that would be negotiation tactics, which would be
I was going to say this is a public meeting, so we
discussion piece. I can talk about numbers and financial impacts, but strategy, we would probably want to reserve that for
yes,
No, I
closed session.
No, you're fine.
I just, I'm trying to figure out how we can come out without having to go to arbitration. I don't.
Also, yeah, I think I wanted us to be able to put these numbers in and then see, so that we see what's needed, what is also additionally essentially wanted, and then see where the CBA negotiations also how that alters the budget. So I wanted us to have this number at the end to.
Thank you.
And I know we were trying to wind down. We do have one other tab we need to go over real quick. So if you flip to the second
room or anything, just please.
If you need to switch to the water and sewer tab, this is actually pretty quick. You can see that we had a favorable, so the mayor's budget $24,600,000, expenditures $25.7 million. Our targeted use was $1.1 million. We were just under that at $1.098 million. Because of the energy savings contract, we're able to save $202,000, which put us in a favorable consideration of that. So, Sandy, if you want to go to the bottom, you can delete that number that's populated in there right now underneath Yep, go ahead and delete that. Thank you. So that would say that right now, because of that energy adjustment, with no additional payroll, the same conversation we just had on the CBA, we would be over our target in a positive way $203,000, essentially recoup all of that savings. Right now, our budget does include a 6% rate increase. What I have shown you on the side for rate increases and decreases, a 1% increase, it's $142,000 approximately. Changing the urban service, we talked about that as a thing, going from 1.5 to 2, that's approximately $155,000 of revenue. So, good.
I was going to say, and Sandy, you can back me up. I think particularly as the water and sewer gets in a larger and larger amount of debt, our balance sheet has gone the wrong direction for a number of years, probably 8 or 10 years. So our cash position has gone down, I don't know, a couple $1 million, several million, I don't know what the numbers exactly, but we need to be forecasting a positive cash position on that. Not terribly, but we need to incrementally add to, and I think you can confirm that, Sandy. I don't think we can do too terribly much, but we can certainly, Phil, if you want to comment, whatever. I mean, I think that's, we've been doing a little bit of zero budgeting there, and I think that's a bad idea. We need to kind of change the direction there. Sandy?
I think when the rate study was done like a few years ago, it was increasing the water and sewer based on the new wastewater treatment plant. And as you saw in slides from yesterday, we have that big loan payment that is going to increase by over $1 million in the next couple of years. So I think that is why the rate study that was done had us increasing the water rates gradually over a few years time frame, but then there was a couple of years where it didn't get increased as they had suggested, so now we've fell behind a little bit.
Are we going to see that same trend with, and I don't want to bring up the county, but with our taxes as well, with real estate?
Trend? Meaning what?
Meaning it's not...
You think it's going to flatten out or go negative?
Yes.
Well, I was a little worried about it being flat this year, but our assessment's all set with no tax.
That saved us, because if without that was what, 1.8 or $1.2 million that we were not planning for. If we didn't have that, we would certainly have to.
Frankly, I think you're right.
Yeah.
That it's going to be flat, or I don't think it's going to decline.
Okay.
But we don't want to lean on having to do tax increases every year to keep up if we can help it. That said, as it relates to going back to the water and sewer thing, is they are taking on as 50% amount of the obligation of the city in total. So they're becoming more of a focus of our debt burden than anything, and I think we need to change our balance sheet approach on that one. Am I right?
I think you're, yeah.
So, no?
Yeah, and as far as the taxes, that's their main source of income for the general fund, and if we keep seeing the increases in salaries through the negotiations with the unions, then we have no other way to generate revenue in the general fund other than basically the real estate taxes. I think in the past, the
5 years or so?
the pay plan, the predictability pay plan was basically a one-step increase, but we're seeing each year that the unions are asking for way more than a one-step increase.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes it very difficult to plan for capital projects, and if we combine the two, it really creates a scary situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One final comment I'll make is the last piece. You can see, and you also have a tab that breaks down the CBA impacts. A one-step increase for, again, secondary negotiations is $143,000, impact to the water and sewer fund. So if there's any additional considerations that council wants us to do with any of the unions, pre-arbitration negotiations, those are the impacts that you can look at of what that would be. And we'd be at your direction.
How does our ability, based upon our budget, impact the demands from the union? In other words, if our budget shows we can't afford this kind of an increase.
Good question. It is, if we get to an impasse, the arbitration lawyer, the arbiter, would take all that into consideration, our ability to fund it, and that would be taken into consideration. So if we say, I guess, well, we can afford, and they go like, well, we want this, he has to decide based off of all the inputs. It is important to note that what we've heard from our council person is if we choose to fund something else instead of funding salaries, that is a choice by us rather than a requirement. So that is also taken into consideration. So us saying, well, we need to fix this instead of pay people, that can be argued that that is a choice still. So
And that's part of the challenge. I mean, so you got the perfect storm, multiple rates benefited from the easements, the assessments, which are slowing down, combined with the union demands and capital projects that were deferred. It's like the perfect storm. So we've got to find a way to navigate that triad while keeping our shirt on, kind of thing.
And pants.
Yeah, that's useful.
I just worry if this goes to arbitration and someone says, well, you funded ambulances, you funded the police department. I mean, to me, those are not choice funding. Those are necessities for people to be safe.
Well, the community has all kinds of needs, not just, so, and I agree. I mean, it's difficult to make that comment, but it's hard.
Okay, thank you.
is there anything else that you ought to like to discuss?
Were they here for Salisbury Community Center?
Yeah, we do have, so there's two other capital projects. I don't know if you want to go over this anymore. We have not gone over the CIP. If there's any other items, I know we had asked Housing Community Development to be around for if we want to go back over the West Salisbury Community Center. We had also, I know at one time, my other note was the neighborhood infrastructure revitalization pot of money.
Yes.
Again, we've been going for a while. We can have further conversations. We can continue. I'm here till 4:30.
I don't punch in and out for council, but I want to be respectful, but also I want to be respectful of you all's time. I know you all came back, but we do have two council members that aren't here, and I want to make sure we have a full scoped conversation. So, and I apologize. I know you all have taken time out of your day. I knew we were going to have, it wasn't planned for us to have two council members away.
I know that, point of order, I know that we have a work session that is scheduled for Monday for us to review some of our considerations. I'm not sure if you would be interested in adding a budget work session continuation to Monday night or scheduling something different. That is up to you all. But I'm just thinking about the timeliness of when you would want to talk about this. So just some ideas. You don't have to answer that right now. You're right.
Even with only three of us here, would it be helpful if Muir and Rachel had something they wanted to just kind of share with us to think about until we had five? Was that worth their time or our time?
I know we'll have the same conversation again, and we have the councilwoman for that district right here, who is, and she's, I think, been a part of the conversation. Then we have Councilwoman Gregory, who is part. I'm fine, but I don't want you.
I don't want to leave her. I don't want to leave April.
I'm gonna ask that you all have that same conversation again. So I'm here. I want to hear from you, but I don't want you to say the same thing.
Can I have a dry run?
Yeah, you want to practice it?
I think what would be nice is maybe this perspective, if they say some things and then you have some follow-up comments, we would then be able to maybe answer those or drill down on that so we have a fuller conversation.
So we do have a presentation, which we could wait to show it again, and then this is just kind of maybe like a warm-up for that.
And yes, let's wait for the presentation. One thought, and I'll look for you all and with staff, just to be respectful of you all's time. We have our meeting scheduled, our legislative session is scheduled for 6 o'clock on Monday. I don't want to go too much earlier than that, but I want to allot for full time to have some discussion for the budget work session. If I schedule it afterwards, I'm not sure when that time will be, but I think the clerk will maybe do some research if we can start our budget work session right before or at the 6 o'clock time or just before then, and then pivot to the other two meetings. Thoughts on that, just so we're not starting too early.
If you're looking for public comment at the work session based off of some of the decision points that have already made in his proposed budget and what we're talking about now, to have budget work session.
I think we'll have public comment at the budget, at this next budget work session. We'll have comment on the mayor's proposed item that is already scheduled for discussion at the work session, correct? This would be just another one of these sessions, so it wouldn't be public comment for that particular section. It would just be us continuing this conversation on the council level adjustments.
Yes.
So so that's the option, is we would start right before the 6 o'clock time. That way we're respectful of staff members' time and schedule versus putting it at the end where we don't know when that's going to be.
I recommend doing it before, but
I'm making sure that since we just put out the agenda for Monday's meeting, so I want to be.
So I was just curious.
Yes.
I would need to do a public notice and adjust the times accordingly for the 2 meetings, we regularly scheduled meetings.
Yeah, we just sent that out, so we'll.
Oh yeah, but you wouldn't want to go to like a 4:30 or 5 o'clock.
No, thank you.
Okay.
Just because
Sure.
members, and we've already.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 2 days, and I want to be respectful of.
I'll stay in my lane. Sorry.
No, don't do that. So perhaps at 5:30, but I don't want to go too much earlier than that time block. Just to.
You want me to check with the other 2 councilors?
Please check with them, and then we'll let you all know. Just okay. Torches passed to you all.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just do a quick high-level overview. An opportunity came to us for a location, and it's going to be in the Salisbury Plaza, which is where Save-A-Lot, Roses, it's right across from the Salisbury Fire Department. It's a blank space, so there's nothing in there, no walls, no nothing. It's just concrete and walls. And a roof. It does have a roof. New roof, actually. And then right directly across from it, right beside it, is a field. So the space is 6,000 square feet. The field is probably, I'm thinking about 20,000 square feet. So there's ability to do a park, playground, stuff that would connect with a potential community center. And the lease would be for $1 a year. And then there would be some condo fees, which would be about probably between $8,000-9,000 a year, which is because there's parking lot, there's other stuff that goes on with the center. They own the walls. We would have everything inside. One of the things that we've noticed is looking at the need on the west side of Salisbury. Wacomico County Public Library, with its relocation, there's some resources that will be leaving this side of town. Specifically, access to a computer lab, access to assistance with finding employment. We know West Salisbury has fewer accessible resources than other areas of the city. And so we're looking for, 2 key things here: is a safe, welcoming after-school environment. Other than that, on the times where that program is not going on, we still have a lot of other time in the day, in the week, that we can provide programming and meeting spaces for the community. So we've done a preliminary survey, and about 89% of the people in the survey believe that West Salisbury should have a community center. Some of the things that they agreed to, or not agreed to, but suggested, was an indoor gym, career development, music and performance and art studio, technology and coding. So some of the similar things that we have at Newton, which is the model that we would operate this particular community center off of. True, it's a different situation because that is an exclusive use of Boys and Girls Club, whereas Newton is more, there's after-school programming, but during the day there's adult learning classes. We have a program with Maryland Food Program, or Maryland Food Bank. Warwick Community College is in there. We have partnerships with Salisbury University. They do stuff there. So there's some existing partnerships that we have that we would essentially duplicate at this section, or at this particular center. And then there's some other things that we can do, such as a computer lab, allow for computer classes, allow for similar to where people have access to to a computer to do job searches and stuff like that. There's potential partnerships with Lower Shore Workforce Alliance, and then all of our existing partnerships as well. So as far as programming, that is kind of how we would model is after the Newton, which has been a very successful model. It's a very busy community center. And in that area of town, what we know is that it's changed that area of town. With the connection to the little park and then the Camden Community Garden, it provides a nice, so there's some things that we can model there. It's, West Salisbury, the biggest challenge with this side of town is when they put Route 50 through, they essentially divided it in half. And so that's the struggle with anything you do, 50 is kind of like in the middle of it. So whether you're on the other side or whether you're on this side of 50, but this does provide a good location. There's new owners of the shopping center. They've done a lot of work there in remodeling it, replacing roofs, taking care of the parking lot. With our presence, that would only enhance the security of the shopping center. And so that's kind of, and we have a model and an idea if we did do this, how we would essentially we have ideas on how we would restructure our community relations division for this to be a sustainable program going forward. So that's just kind of like a high level. Any questions?
Just one off the top. 6,000 square feet. So out of that, all the stuff that you can do is great. What is the thought about partnering with the Boys and Girls Club for after-school programming, and then already have the model, they have their programming and all that set up?
The issue there would be exclusive use. Mm-hmm. So their model, they have exclusive use of that. We don't use that building that they're in. That is kind of the model of how they operate. They take exclusive use of the building. So for us, after-school programming is essentially 3 to 6:30. It's 3.5 hours. So you have a lot more time in the evening and the day that you can do other things in a building that could be versatile.
There's also already a Boys and Girls Club further down the street at
Salisbury Middle. Right?
No, well, past Salisbury Middle at like by Billie Jean Jackson Park. What is it? The Richard Henson. Thank you, Richard Hazel Center. Boys and Girls Club operate out of that building.
Yes.
So it's not far.
Their thought is to transition to a model that has their own building.
Mm-hmm.
So to transition that to another building.
I see.
So that would eliminate, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it would eliminate our flexibility if we were to partner with them on this project.
For that building.
Correct.
Okay.
We would have to work around their schedule over the summer. At least at Truett Street, they operate a summer camp from 9 to 4. So that eliminates our use even during the day over the summer. So if they were to do the same thing at West Salisbury, we would lose access to the whole building for the whole summer.
It brings capital, but we lose some access.
Well, one of the things that's evolved since this conversation started, I'm sure these are aware, there's another 3,600 square feet that's part of the end unit that we're hoping to get as well. So technically, they could operate as two different operations. So that's it's more of adult oriented, one of the 3,600, and the 6,000 can be more of the youth base and with a broad function. So that's sort of
my question comes in. Actually, I was speaking with some partners at the public schools. Is that they're looking for, and actually, Council Vice President can attest to this with their extreme behavioral needs programs. They need some space there. This would be a potential revenue source, which I would like us to have a conversation on. I can merge that conversation. Again, if we don't have anyone using that space in the daytime from the 8 to 3 o'clock hours, public schools, again, you all have children, they operate in those hours. Empty space, they have a need for a space. We would be able to generate revenue from this. That would take care of your condo fees plus more.
We do, the way that our model for our rentals is typically if it's a non-profit or a public.
This wouldn't be a rental. This would be like a lease or like a yes, this would be like a shared some sort of like a CBA community.
Sure, yeah, we would have to discuss that with the realtor or the group that the property manager about that, because if we get into a space where we break something off and lease it, I don't know how
It wouldn't be like, so I would like us to have.
if they would allow us to do that.
Yeah, I would like us to have that conversation, because that would be the only, like, so with us and with I know the capital, and I'm only saying this because Cambridge has just gone through this. Now, they are working with the Boys and Girls Club and with MDH, but if we're not partnering with Boys and Girls Club in staffing and operational, we're looking at adding another, what, 250 or
operationally, we would restructure our division, and it would probably be in the 130 to 140,000 a year range for basically duplicating the cost and then changing what our staff does. We would need in our opinion, we would need one full-time person to kind of be there during the day. We would add additional part-timers, expand our part-time budget, and then we would elevate 2 positions within that division to be more appropriate with what they would be managing.
I think, my model was that we would find a partner that would not unlike, we wouldn't try to staff it ourselves, not that we couldn't have a part-timer, but that was my original vision when we started talking about it.
So, yes, staff it ourselves, or no?
Well, I don't think we know yet, but I think, I think to your point, I think there are at least 2 now that want to take a look at it.
Sure.
So,
and I think that's where because I'm watching other municipalities and they've gone through. So with this, it's a $350,000 operational CIP request for us to be able to outfit this building, which again we're thankful to the developer for wanting to gift us this building, and then just us paying the condo fees. But for us extending ourselves out this much, and without having a concrete plan and knowing how we're going to fit this out operationally moving forward, and we've already told the public that we're going to do this, and we've already done surveys, and this is just this is really exposing the city, and I'm concerned with us.
We haven't committed to doing it. We're doing surveys to get an interest. We've got an event tomorrow night that we're going to be doing some more in-depth, asking those on that side of town what they would like to see.
Right.
Again, it's not just, this is what we're hearing, what we want to hear from the people that live there. What would you like to see on this side of town? What services or what programming would you like to be available? So that's kind of, we're still listening in that, and our goal is to take what we get from tomorrow, and we want to do a deeper survey with Jordan on that platform, but target the people that live in that area, because those are the ones that are going to use the community center the most. So again, we're still in a listening phase. We're not in a the 350 would be, we probably wouldn't even see construction start until, if we did get it, until the end of the year, or
we could acquire the building without doing the 350 projection. 350. Okay.
Well, no.
or
Why would we do that?
oh no, I mean no. I mean,
I think we wouldn't fund the 350 until we have a handle on the operational piece. I mean, if we're bonding for it, we can always reallocate the money to something else if we decide that's not a great idea. I just don't think we got to put, what I mean. So, but I think we're there. I mean, I think we will find partners that will be willing to help us with this.
So why bond out or potentially bond out for the 350 and allocate it with our CIP if that's not going to
because we can't bond for it later. Not 350 by itself.
Next year.
Well, we could.
Well, I'm just saying, so we could still acquire the building, right? And
Okay.
I mean, it would, in that conversation, again, we would have to reach back out to the property manager, because they would expect us to start something within a certain period of time if we signed a lease agreement.
Lights out provision, I'm sure.
so this is this is the first I'm really hearing.
So
about
we've had some prior conversations with them, so we would have to discuss we have a timeline that we would like to do something. Mm-hmm. They may come back as we get deeper into negotiations and say, well, we'll do this, but you've got to start construction within 6 months or a year.
Mm.
That could be
But we don't even know if that's what they're saying.
We don't know that.
We don't know that. Okay, so.
Knowing that we're gonna have this
think-
conversation again, do you want us, you gonna ask us some questions and get together?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who's the
Specific
developer? Who's
takeaways?
the property manager?
Well, who's having all these conversations? This is the first we're hearing of it. So when we're looking at a CIP thing with the $350 something, $1,000. What we're saying as a council, we've not been privy to any of this. This is the first time we're hearing this, expecting a 350 something layout, which this is a great idea and I'm for it. But I want it to be practical too and absolutely doable and sustainable. And right now, it seems like it's just more of a concept that everyone wants to see it, but we don't know how to do any of it.
Well,
Has the youth committee been a part of
Yes.
saying anything about this?
Yes, the WIDAC was invited to, some members were invited to view the space, and then we also held,
To view it. Yeah, can you invite us?
April went.
yeah.
It was an
that's
open
nice.
invitation. We went to, it was 2:00 in the afternoon, one afternoon, and April and I were there.
Oh, who got the invitation?
It was, I think,
Not me.
extended anybody that wanted to come. It was announced, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to check with April.
Okay.
WIDAC did go. We discussed it at one of our meetings, and they are all for it. They are very supportive of having a center on that side of town, so.
The other piece too is if, in fact, if there's, what you were talking about, getting more information, the actual, it is a shell. If it were going to be used, how much use would how much would it be used during the day by the community would also determine whether or not, what you were just mentioned, something about the Board of Ed or something wanting to find a place, whatever that might mean. That would be a lock-in, and we'd have to find out whether that would impact the adult usage during the day.
Correct, because during the day, I mean, like Mira was saying, we would mirror what we do at Newton Street, where we have Warwick there doing adult education classes. During the fall and spring semester, they're there Monday through Thursday during the day. That would, and then also the computer lab, that would allow for
But
folks to come in during the day.
Not that one's better or worse than the other, but I'm just, so we don't have to mimic that. But if we're partnering with the public schools, which is a great partner, where the emotionally or whatever the term is for those who need this space, they're in a trailer right now, and they're going to be paying for this space. I think that's a good partnership.
Sure, yeah, I've not heard of that, so I don't even know.
Because I was having conversations about just what their needs were. So if I knew about this 3 months ago, we could have had this conversation, that we could have been talking about this and
I mean, we have the Truett gym that sits empty during the day. So they can step into the Truett gym tomorrow if they wanted to.
Sure.
That's definitely available if they would prefer, if they need a gym space, we have tables and chairs. Yeah, I didn't even know that was a need. So that's something that we can.
I just think the communication with it is a piece of the pie here. It sounds like some council people have more information on it than most of the council, so I don't know what to do.
It's not so much information or planning that anybody was excluded. It was just a look and see. Is that the best way to describe it? That day we went and
Okay, well, this is the first I've heard about any of it. But now it's a look and see on the CIP with $350.
For at least a couple of months. I've heard you speak about it at meetings. So, I mean, I'm not saying you do any specifics, but I'm just saying that was the concept, that we were going to put together a West Side Community Center.
Councilwoman Blake, I'm trying to get my takeaway points so that when we have a full group here, if I may have the flexibility, with the $350,000 allocation that we are looking at, and that would be for outfitting, not operational costs. For you to be interested in that, moving that forward, it sounds like you want more information on the operations, or is there anything I can provide you that will give you more clarity on that?
I think even to know where we are with negotiations. It sounds like a lot.
We haven't even gotten a contract.
So I think, and that's where, okay, so just.
We've got a terms of it.
Just seeing.
Agreement.
But you're on the WIDAC email list too, so you would have gotten those, like, for the meetings that we've had, we sent out.
So an update on, do we even have contractual obligation for that facility at this point before we jump into allocating funding? That's a question.
No, it sounds like no.
We don't have a
Okay.
Okay, so to guide us, I think one, if we can see some figures from, I think since we want to mimic Newton, if we can see some figures on how that was, I know that was gifted by a family, so similar in that function. The outfit, if there was any outfitting, I know that there was commercial kitchen, so how that all looked, and we have any figures from Newton to kind of give us, so we have some markers there. I know personally what has been going on with Truett Street. So that's my personal, and it's in my district. So I know the aches and pains that has come with that. So that's where my angst comes in with adding a third community center to our to our list, and we're still wanting to clean up some things with Truett. So I think we just to have a full scope plan, and I mean I've heard you on two different things you all are kind of not in alignment with. So just I think fully scoped and just some concrete details on what this looks like moving forward would be helpful for us to be able to sign off on bonding out $350,000 for an obligation for the city to put on our balance sheet. So if we want to have that prepared,
So it sounds like you would like us to have a little bit more of a full direction before we buy. So unlike a spec building, we're like, let's build it and then we'll figure out what we want to use it. You would rather us to have more of a direct purpose that would give you more comfortability with getting behind the allocation. You want to kind of know which direction we're going. So you would like us to have that more fleshed out prior to our next meeting to talk about this with the rest of council?
If that's what you...
If it's possible.
Yeah, if it's moving forward it could be on Monday, then that would
That's what you're...
Yep.
Jen, what are do you have any additional needs or things that we can huddle up and talk about on our side to bring forward?
I think it would be helpful, Deshaun and Angela, you've spoken about something the Board of Ed needs, evidently. My concern with making sure that whomever would be going into that facility, even though it would be a revenue source, as you're saying, Deshaun, is if we outfit it and you have the equipment that they have on Newton Street, I would not want that to be damaged or have anything happen to that for another partner coming in. If you're talking about my perception, if these are children that are having issues, I think we need to set up the guidelines as to what the partner would bring with them, not only the financial piece, obviously, which we haven't done yet because we don't know exactly what it will look like, but damages and things, because that is a reality when you have somebody using other spaces.
We don't even have a contract on the space.
I understand that, but you're saying you're saying you want more information.
Yeah.
So that would be part of the information
let's
that
get a
you would have.
contract.
Who would be using it, when they would be using it, and for what purposes.
And that would be spelled out in a CBA or some sort of shared use agreement, and so all those parameters are there. Both so even with the food bank using the space or with whoever, you would have a shared use agreement, or we should rather. I don't want to speak for but we should have some sort of agreement where it's aligned out of if you're using the space, if you have the space available for access between these hours, you're able to use these things. You're bringing these here if there's monetary function there, and also you have if damages happen, you've given us your insurance policy, all those things. It's all worked out in a shared use or CBA or some sort of agreement.
You may list what some of the options are.
Sure, that's with any partner you'll have a liability.
And then just to also clarify something, when I say mirror Newton Street, I don't mean in like the construction side of it. I mean the programming side of it, because Newton was a totally different building.
I'm asking you, give me something
to do. Then this one's an empty shell. Newton, we had to completely gut.
What you offer could be.
But programming wise, I would like to do the same thing that we do at Newton Street.
And what $350,000 is going to do? Like, what is that? What outfitting?
Well, and we've had a meeting on that subject to get a scope of work to develop. But it also comes in terms of how we're going to use the space, and then that also dictates who the partner is going to be. So it's kind of like a chicken and an egg. So we're trying to figure out what we're getting, how is it going to be managed longer term, how we get the fit up, which is the scope of work, and then who's the partner, and then how do we, so it's not I don't think it's a loss either way. So
the spaces don't have to be built out to be program specific. They're all going to be multi-use, so it can be whatever it evolves into.
We do have an idea for some classroom type
If I may, another one of our CIP items was for the zoo, for an education center. Still very early concept. There's an allocation we're thinking. We know we need to find partners. I know that's not one that we have decided that we need to talk about. It sounds like the West Salisbury Community Center is one that we are being asked to have a little bit more of direction on. This is something that will get built as we go, but you have to start with an allocation to see if there's an appetite for us to build it.
This is what we got for the zoo.
Yep.
So
You're looking for something that's a little bit more like
more idea and
concept.
vision of what's going
Okay,
on.
I'm just asking. So I just want to make sure we're prepared.
So, and I'll share.
Go ahead. Sorry.
And I'll,
Supposed to be today.
So I mean,
Everyone's not here yet, so
More of
yes. Sorry, Council President.
Thank you. I was in angst and I was on the edge with that. Just being transparent, I was trying to see, the why. The why came for me with the accreditation. We would gain the accreditation and get us closer to there without spending the $4.5 million for the Andy and Bear. That made sense for me, but it's up until then, frankly, it was a maybe to a no. But once the director said this would get us closer to the accreditation, it became an automatic yes for me. We just saved $4 million.
Got it.
So,
Okay.
quite frankly.
That makes, okay, so I think we have enough, I understand enough on where we should and what we should do for the next presentation. And if, okay.
Seeing nothing else, I will thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion for adjournment for today's sessions.
so moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We'll see you. Thank you.